Hey everyone, welcome to episode 105 of Bucs UK TV. Detroit's in the bin, and now we're on to the Falcons. It's going to be another home game at the Ray J. Optimism reigns supreme. We've all forgotten about anything in the past. We're looking forwards. Gary, in the last episode, you said that there were plenty of winnable games out there. Is Atlanta? We'll go into the individual matchup, but overall, Atlanta's got to be one of those, isn't it? That we've at least got
Oh,
a chance with.
absolutely. We've got to not just win it, we've got to have a statement win. We've really got to pummel them so that we can put the Detroit game in the rearview mirror, forget all about it. I think on a season preview, when you put the members' thoughts up, the home game against Atlanta was one I think just about every single member thought we would win. They're not doing too bad. They're not as bad as people think, and they run the ball for fun. So we can win it, but our run defense is going to have to be as good as it was against Detroit and not as bad as it was against Philly. And we've got to make Desmond Ridder beat us through the air. And if that happens, we'll win comfortably.
So, Phil, we'll come to you next then. So, Gary's talked about the running game and running the ball, and we know that Bijan Robinson is the person that is most likely to get the majority of those carries. In our last podcast, you were saying how great Vita Vea was at blowing up the middle and the strong Bucs against the run game. How do you think that's going to pan out?
Well, I think I was unlucky enough to see the Falcons play the Jags at Wembley, a couple of weeks ago. And my overriding thought was that the Falcons absolutely stink. And then they go and beat the Texans, and the Texans go and beat the Saints. So, we talk about what team the Bucs are, what team are they? But I thought Ridder was poor. He had another poor game yesterday when they lost to the Commanders. I think through two touchdowns, but through 3 interceptions. So I think stopping the run is the big deal. I think stopping the pass into Bijan Robinson, I think if we stop him, we stop them, essentially. They're wasting Kyle Pitts in that offense.
It's depressing, isn't it? He's such a talent. I'd kill to have him.
Exactly. Drake London, all right, has got 320 yards so far this season, but I don't think he's kind of pulling up any trees. So I think stopping the run game is the issue, and I think we've got enough to do that. Robinson's, I would argue, is looks a special talent. I think he's obviously, I would say he's an upgrade on our running backs, but I think we've got the talent to stop him, and I think we know he's going to be the focal point, and if we can focus on that, then we should be able to do a job on them. I'd be disappointed if we don't win this. It's Bucs football, but I'd be disappointed if we don't win this comfortably.
We will have a way of keeping it close. I think there will be a few cardiac arrests along the way. Dom, Phil talked about Desmond Ridder. We talked about Bijan Robinson. Desmond Ridder, to me, again, we've talked about Jekyll and Hyde. I overuse that way, but I just see so much good in Desmond Ridder, and then I see so much rubbish as well. It reminds me, in a slightly less flamboyant way, about Jameis Winston. Kind of, you never knew when the ball was going to come out. It was either going to be the best pass of your life or the worst. And I kind of see a bit of that in Desmond Ridder as well. So I think he's capable, isn't he?
Yeah, it's certainly capable. It's a good comparison because with the Bucs kicking off later yesterday, I had Red Zone on, and they were concentrating quite a bit on the Atlanta game. And their coach was, I can't remember his name, but he was throwing his microphone about because Ridder kept overthrowing, underthrowing, throwing interceptions, and then he'd produce a fantastic pass. You think, why can't he do that consistently? But he can't, and I don't think he will. That's the thing. And you just hope to God, because we knew Winston, all those years we watched him, some games he'd play like Dan Marino, wouldn't he? And you just hope to God it's not that game on Sunday. But I'm confident it won't be. You've got to be.
Some days Dan Marino, some days Danielle Marino, probably, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So, Gary, in terms of who Desmond Ridder is throwing to, Phil, you've already mentioned Drake London. There's a little sort of dodgy little receiver by the name of Scotty Miller there as well, who could be out and about and might want to have a bit of a chip on his shoulder and want to cause the Bucs some pain. What do you think of the Falcons pass game? Because we also talked about Kyle Pitts as well. So there is some talent on this team.
Yeah, there's talent on every team. you don't make it to the NFL if you're not a talented player, and certainly Desmond Ridder is that as well. Ridder is just inexperienced and a bit inconsistent, isn't he? If you look at the stats that they've put up, they're a little bit skewed because they've obviously played a game more than we have. But they're on a par with us in terms of passing yards. The rushing yards is off the charts because they're very good and we're not. Ridder's stats are on a par with Baker Mayfield's if you look at them. I don't see enough of them to know who their good players are. Everybody knows about Bijan Robinson. Everybody knows about Drake London. I don't think Scotty Miller's been doing a great deal this year, has he? They've got that other running back, Ali Jair, who
Tyler. I don't know how you say it. Yeah, Tyler.
Algier.
He had a really good rookie year, and he must have thought, I'm going to make some money here, and I'm going to be the feature of the offense. And then they draft Bijan Robinson, so he must have a chip on his shoulder and want to prove the coaches wrong.
But I guess it does mean there is that change of pace back to come in. They've got two genuine backs in the backfield that they can, because it felt like once we'd managed to get to Montgomery, it felt like, actually for the Lions, they became a little more one-dimensional. But we probably can't bank on the Falcons doing that.
They build their game plans around running the ball. They've got 714 rushing yards so far this year, and we've got, I haven't even written it down, about 250.
So, Phil, the last bit of the offense then for the Falcons obviously is their O-line. It's not a sort of massive, it's not teaming with Pro Bowlers, but Chris Lindstrom and Jake Matthews are the ones that I quite like watching. Obviously, they do create holes for the running backs. They're not great at keeping Ridder upright, I believe.
I mean, that game against the Jags, I'm sure Ridder was pressured and was on his back, so many times during the game. So it's nothing, I think Barrett and JTS, as we mentioned on the last episode, could have a field day this week, just, because of Vair and Cansey and guys like that making holes in the O-line and then being able to run through. So, I'd expect us to get a few sacks in this game and kind of put him under some real pressure. And
do you think that we ought to have some aggressive play calling again and keep sending the chaos, or is it okay to sit back a bit more, do you think?
I think you would want to be aggressive, because we've talked so much about how their offense is going to be built around their run game. I think you've got to be aggressive against that and try and force them to throw the ball, because we know that they're probably not as good at throwing the ball, from what we've seen so far. And I think you talked about, Gary, about Ridder's stats being on par with Mayfield, but if you look at the turnover ratio, Falcons' turnover ratio is -6, whereas ours is +6. So I think we're a bit safer with the ball. But also, if we are aggressive, I don't think Ridder's decision making is as good as some quarterbacks, and I think that's where he's going to make mistakes. So the quicker we can get to him, the less time we give him, the more chance there is for us to turn it into a short field situation, and that's where we kind of need to then drive it home.
Yeah, or the turnovers, like I say, it's a really important point. So, okay, Dom, let's go to the other side of the ball, and this could be my ignorance here. I know very little about the Falcons defense. To me, it seems to be one of those lesser known units that kind of, there's some players there. I mean, someone might have drafted them if you've got defensive fantasy league, but it's not going to set the world on fire, is it?
No, I'm afraid I'm like you, Kieran. I know very little about it. What I do know is that no one's picked their defense for our fantasy team, so they can't be doing too much. Even I, who's struggling, haven't.
And someone desperately sure would know they're playing the Bucs this week, and it must be worth a punt.
Yeah, you'd have thought so. But no, I'm afraid I'm going to have to plead ignorance on that. I don't know, but I'm sure our O-line will cope with them.
They've got some good pieces. Like they picked up Jesse Bates, who I think is the safety that was at the Bengals before, wasn't he? I think. And is it AJ? I'm looking at their roster now.
AJ Terrell. I mean, Calais Campbell is the one that I think probably gets most of the coverage as the defensive lineman. He a bit like in the Vita Vea.
But yeah, exactly. He's a bit older now. I think they've got some good players, but I personally don't think they're a good unit, having seen them in the flesh.
Yeah, Campbell got his 100th career sack.
I thought it was his 100th birthday.
Yesterday. Yeah. Well, yeah, probably that as well. But player.
Don, we'll come back to you. Okay, let's say we don't care who the Falcons are because we're going to beat them anyway. What plays are you calling on offense for the Bucs to try and get things moving again, get some yards, get some points?
Run up the gut.
Because we've not been trying that.
No. I think just spread it around. Few deep throws. I think don't abandon the run game. Few screen passes. Mix it up a little bit. But whatever we have, I think we'll have too much for them.
Phil, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think trying to get them to pick up some penalties as well. I haven't got the stats in front of me, but I remember against the Jags, I'm sure they gave up a fair few penalties in the game. Silly ones that we'd have been kind of getting annoyed about for ourselves over the last few years. So I think we want to try and keep the defense on the field, their defense on the field as long as we can, and then they're going to be making mistakes that we can take advantage of as well. But I think we talked about whether we want to be aggressive with the rush on D. I think you want to try that moving forwards as well. Go for a few deep throws, try and throw some play action in there and just vary it up. If there's a game to have after, I know the Panthers haven't got a win yet, and we're playing some other teams that, as Gary mentioned, but I think this is a good game to maybe try something new and just throw a lot of stuff out there and see what works really. I think hopefully we're going to be comfortable and it's something that we can experiment in.
So yeah, both of you guys saying that the deep ball, I don't necessarily disagree. My challenge would be Baker Mayfield first 3 weeks of the season, that deep ball was sweet and it just seemed to drop down at the right point. The deep ball since then, I mean, yesterday, for those of us starting, it's Monday, so against the Lions, the deep ball just wasn't placed well, was it? It kept overthrowing, which is better to overthrow than to underthrow in terms of being picked off. Yeah. But do you think Baker's got that deep ball back in him?
I think it was just the glare of the Florida orange that was putting him off, to be honest. I think he'll be back normal.
A hint of the Testaverdes with a bit of colour blindness thrown in as well, maybe.
But Gary, I don't know. In all seriousness, he showed he can do it in the first few weeks. So we just need to get back to that.
So Gary, last question then on the play calling. Kind of obviously we know you want a flea flicker. That's taken as read.
Absolutely.
But what other plays are you going to be calling?
Well, I don't know about specific plays, but what I agree with Phil and Dom. What we need is some creativity. I was watching the Lions game thinking that Canales had picked up Byron Leftwich's playbook by mistake and left his back in the office. I want him to get his own playbook out and start doing things. I want to see Chris Godwin throwing passes. I want to see end arounds and screen passes. And what about short yardage? I mean, Big Vita caught a touchdown pass a couple of years back, didn't he? Let's have some creativity, but above all, let's have a flea flicker.
There we go. We want trick or treat. Halloween's coming early. The treat being the flea flicker, the trick being let's not use Leftwich's playbook. Okay, then. So you've got your one magic wand moment. There's one. We've got a week's worth of training to try and fix things for the Falcons. What's the thing you're going to work on? What's the thing you're going to push most? Phil, let's start with you.
Well, assuming Ryan Jensen's knee is out of the equation, I think just getting...
It's only a magic wand, not holy water, sorry.
I think maybe getting Baker's deep ball back on track. I think, we talked about problems in the run game, and I think it might take more of a magic wand to fix that. But I think really, if we open up the pass a bit more, if they're scared of us throwing it downfield, that will create more opportunities as they drop more D back into the secondary. So I think, getting that deep ball going, getting the connection with Evans again, I think that would be, do us the world of good.
Brilliant. Dom, your magic wand, where are you going to wave it?
It's a bit boring, but run game, definitely the run game. That would be my magic wand. For a magic O-line to push them and there be a big parting down the waves, 99-yard, like Phil says, against Carolina.
So it's not a wand, it's more sort of staff of Moses. You're going to part the Red Sea or something. And
Charlton Heston.
Like it. Very good. And Gary, your magic wand moment.
Mine is the same as Dom. What I want to see is the running game finally take off. But what I really want to see is us break a long run. I mean, our longest run this year, believe it or not, Chase Edmonds, 14 yards.
Oh, I believe it.
You know,
Not even a running back.
and because of that, the average is rubbish, isn't it? What we averaging 3 yards a go. So if we could just break 2 or 3, you know, I'm not asking for 99. I'm asking for 30 or 40. If you can get a couple of them a game, you know, it keeps the defense honest. They don't know what you're going to do, but your stats go through the roof. You haven't got 3 yards a pop. You've got 4, 4.1, 4.2, and everybody thinks, oh, the running game's pretty good. So my magic wand is, can somebody please just break a long run, 30, 40, 50 yards? Let's get the crowd on their feet.
I've seen your park run times, Gary. I reckon you could break more than 14 yards.
I've seen him. He can't.
I think my magic wand moment would be the mid-range passing game, and I said this on the forum last night. So you're handing off, or you're faking a handoff when you're doing a play action. The timing of that means it's not going to be a short pass; it's going to be a mid-range pass. So something like a seam pass to a tight end, a crossing route to Godwin or Evans, a comeback or something like that to one of the receivers, just to move the chains. What the Lions did well is chunk plays. Every time you catch the ball, make the effort worthwhile and move the chains. And I feel like once we do that, you'll find the linebackers have to go a little bit deeper. Then the ends aren't pinning their ears back and going straight in. The run game might have a little bit more chance as a result. So I think pass to set up the run. I kind of a bit like you, Dom. I think it's all about the running game, but kind of to play just a different way, rather than just having that bullheadedness of we're just going to keep imposing our will, which quite frankly is not working. I feel like we just need to kind of take the third way, be a bit lib Democrat about the whole thing, and try and sort of find different ways around. Okay, so now it's prediction time. Money where your mouth is. What is the score going to be, Dom?
We're going to win 33-21. All Atlanta's points are coming from Robinson because I'm playing Phil in fantasy this week, and that'll be fine. The perfect weekend.
So you won't be starting the Bucs D at least. Fair enough. Well, for Phil in revenge.
No.
Well, I'm hoping that Robinson, we completely shut him down. I'm going to go for a shutout now. No, I reckon 34-17. I'm hoping our offense is going to open up and we're going to score a few touchdowns. So 34-17. Okay,
well, in both cases, Gary, they've got the Bucs scoring 30+ points. Do you agree with that?
I have as well. Yeah. If you watch Baker's press conference, you could tell how frustrated and, quite frankly, how pissed off he was about everything. I think they're going to come out and make a statement. I've got us winning 30-17, but I think they're only going to score 30 because I think we'll take our foot off the gas in the second half.
So some garbage time sympathy yards and points.
A few kneel downs at the end, yeah.
My worry with Baker Mayfield is the more he gets angry and the more he gets riled, the less relaxed he's going to be. My worry is that's when the interceptions might start to come, when he starts to get... Yeah, I think starting the year, the strength of him was just how loose he was in the nicest sense, just running around, rolling out, although the rollout doesn't seem to work anymore. Anyway, so I've got a heart overhead prediction. I've got the Bucs winning 21-20. I think we're going to block a PAT. That's going to be the difference. I think it's going to be close. I think we're going to squeak a win, and I will take winning ugly every day of the week.
Yeah, I hope you're going to go into Ladbrokes and put a wager on that's going to happen.
Oh, I hope not. I saw a TikTok the other day. Someone got arrested in Ladbrokes after winning, so I'll try and make sure that doesn't happen.
Wow.
Well, you've heard our predictions. Tell us what you think the score is going to be, and you can come back and gloat when you got it inevitably right and we got it all wrong. But hopefully we got it right insofar as it's a Bucs win across the board. I saw last week on the NFL predictions that some of the way too early predictions were also favouring the Bucs. So let's hope that holds true. Thank you again, Phil and Gary and Dom. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you very soon to hopefully have some Victory Monday picks. And until then, go Bucs!
Go Bucs!
Go Bucs!